gave me somebody else's grade.
Oh, thanks.
Jeff, you're gonna need to move
So what kind of questions we got?
to the little, to the left a little bit. You only got this side. Looks a little better.
Yeah.
5-7, number 82.
All right, guys, so I got a question from 5-7, page 433. Number 82. What jumps out at you about this one here? Let's see.
Grouping, maybe? Well, we have x minus 4.
Yeah, they kind of did a little bit of work for you already. You can see the x minus 4 comes out of everybody. But once you do that, don't stop, because what are you left with once you do that?
Trinomial.
Okay, 5x.
5x2 minus 14x minus 3.
You gotta factor.
And that's a trinomial that might factor. Sure enough, the middle dude is half the first guy's power, so it's in the right form. I've got to try and attack it.
5 times 3.
Yeah, so you take 5. There's a number out front that's not 1, so 5 times negative 3. And whenever the middle guy is 1 off from that, it's always going to be 1 in that.
So that's plus 15 and negative.
So it'll be 1 and 15.
Right.
15 negative.
15's got to be negative to make the middle term negative, right?
Minus b plus 1.
So I'll let you guys finish that out. I think
Grouping.
you just split that up. I put the minus 1 first.
Right.
Just don't forget on the second one, you can take out a 1, really. That'll help you on that step there. Is that good?
Yep.
Who asked me that, John?
Yeah.
Did you take a 5 out of the first group?
Yeah, you can take a 5.
5x.
Okay, I see
And
why
then you
now.
keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When do you combine the first and the last, and when do you just stay with the last for your?
The funny thing is, I mean, you always do it, believe it or not. So if I add this, what's 1 times 12?
It's 12.
12. So you always do it. It just doesn't mess you up until the first number is not a 1. And that's what's going to mess up the middle term. That's why I got to put either an extra step in there, or some of you guys are figuring out you got a little bit more trial and error to approach. So some of you guys do these problems differently than what I do them, and that's perfectly fine. As long as I can tell what the hell you're doing. There's a lot of different ways to do these problems.
Okay, so that's where I screwed up on 5.
But that's what I'm saying. So when the first number is a 1, you are doing 1 times 12, it's just still 12. And it's not a hard problem because the first number is a 1, there's only one way to break it up then, 1 and 1. Right? Whereas over here, I know there's only one way to break up 5, but it's going to mess up my middle term. It's going to mess it up. So if I make this a grouping problem, everything falls into place. I know it comes out of there. I know it comes out of there. It all falls into place for me. Whereas here, what are the two numbers that are going to multiply by 12 out to be negative 7?
4 and
4 and 3. X squared, there's only one way to do that.
Yeah.
So it's not going to mess up my numbers that go here, so those numbers don't have to be anything different, right? Whereas here, I'm going to have a 5 somewhere here somehow, right? And that's going to mess up whatever goes here, so I can't, you can always trial and error it, and a lot of you guys are pretty good at playing with the numbers, but some of us either aren't good at it or just don't want to do it, and at least we got this other way to do it, right? Which reinforces the whole grouping thing, so I like doing it this way, get extra practice on the grouping.
So your suggestion is, instead of putting in parentheses, group it when it's difficult and it's easier?
Well, yeah, that's my suggestion. I mean, you could take this guy, skip this step entirely, and just start trying some things out until it works. And the better you are with manipulating numbers, the shorter you can make that.
the easier that
Until
thing's
it
going to be.
becomes feasible. If you're not all that great at playing with numbers, that way might become very long. Then you
Easier.
got to try a lot of different combinations out.
Usually you can do this easier when you have the first numbers.
So you're grouping.
Yeah, when the first number's not a 1, it's going to be more difficult. Because that number's going to mess up my middle terms, right? So it should be more difficult then. When there's just a 1 out front, there's a 1 times 3 and a 1 times 4, it doesn't change them. It's very straightforward. I don't have to take care of the changes that happen. Here there's going to be a 5 somewhere. And it's going to mess up my middle term, right? And I've got to take that into account somehow, and that's what this method does. Or you just straight up trial and error until you get it to work right.
I remember you showed this method last week and I got confused. I think I bastardized that with the new one.
I got you. Some people do this method here, which is okay. You'll still get the answer, but you have 2 more steps than you need. I mean, you get the numbers that work right, you're done. When do I know that can happen? When there's a 1 out front, right? When is it not going to be that easy? When there's not a 1 out front, because that's going to mess me up. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So when you factor this one, and you take a 5 out, then you're left with, or 5x out, you're left with an x minus 3, and that's what you have left. So do you just put a 1 plus 1?
What can come out of here? A 1. Good.
Okay. Okay.
And 1 more step and you're done. Right. Cool. Yes.
6-1, 8, 4, 6,
Very
9.
bottom. Jesus.
2B, number 2, B, C, D, I think. The answer, we say x is not equal to minus 5. Number B.
Oh yeah, yeah. I always forget about this. 2B and 2B.
And C and D.
2B they made a mistake in the answers. Yeah. 2B
Oh.
they made a mistake in the answers.
Minus 25.
So
not
you
6.
always trust yourself first, and then see if the book got it right. That's a difficult thing to do when you're a student.
Yeah.
But they have typos in the book. Bless you.
Oh,
Hell yes, they have typos.
only writing this one.
I love when they have typos because it helps me catch my my copiers. Just copy the answer now. I'm like, where did you get that from? It's very interesting.
So, the correct one is over x squared minus 25?
Yeah, 2B you can't simplify it.
Ah, we can't simplify.
Because they messed up the bottom. They didn't make the bottom what they wanted it to be. So they made a mistake on 2B on section 6.1.
And
The
C,
back of the book made a mistake. You're not going to make that mistake. You're going to attack it correctly and realize the book is crazy.
what about C, please?
The correct answer to that question is hell no. Right here, the
I like it.
biggest mistake in chapter 6, actually entirely, the biggest mistake is to do something like, no, I'm with you, don't worry. I'll get you.
Thank you.
It's to take this. Why is that a mistake? When you cancel things out, what are you saying is happening mathematically?
Multiplication.
Like here, what would you do to both sides?
You'd add 7.
Why? Because I wanted to cancel here, because I'm doing opposite operations. So when you cancel something out, you are claiming that the opposite operation is occurring. This is division.
Oh, too big.
Division cannot cancel out subtraction or addition. Right? Therefore, you cannot cancel those out. It's the most human thing to do, though, because we're so used to, if I see something on top and something at the bottom, you kill it. But that's because you factored it to that point, right? So like when you do 10 over 25, that's 5 times 2 over 5 times 5. Those cancel. Why? Because division is the opposite of multiplication. Cool. So you cannot break into a subtraction or an addition problem. You cannot break into it and take a piece of it away. You've got to factor until you get opposite operations. The division bar can't do anything until you have multiplication for it to kill. That's the only thing division can kill, right?
And so the top part would be x,
Now here, so the correct way to do this,
would be x plus 5, x minus 5
good, because the
over
top is a thank God problem.
just a binomial, correct?
And on the bottom you get x minus 5, x minus 5. Right. Those make positive, add to be negative 10.
Yeah.
So an x minus 5 cancels.
Then you have x
And
plus
it
5.
cancels there, why? Because this division does cancel that multiplication that they're involved with, right?
Parentheses indicates
So like
multiplication.
the reason that it doesn't work is if like with the little example that you put with the 10 and the 25, if that was like 10 plus x over 25 plus x, which was 2, that would be 12 over 7 and it couldn't cancel, right?
Exactly, yeah. Or even better, I mean, can you reduce 9/5? Can you reduce it?
No.
No, don't give me mixed number stuff. Can you reduce it? No, even though 9 is 5 plus 4.
And 5.
Why should that not bother? I don't care. Because it's all about factoring it. I need the opposite operation of division. And if I break up 9 like this, that's not the opposite operation of division. The dividing bar can't do shit for me. But if it's 10 over 5,
Yes,
well then the top is 5 times 2.
and 1 plus,
You
yeah.
So of course the 5s will cancel because now the division bar can kill this multiplication, right?
But the first one, you can do it as 5 over 5 plus 4 over 5.
Yeah, you can break it up, of course, but
Yeah.
you just can't use the division to cancel something then. Not directly. Yeah, okay.
2-0.
Is that okay up there?
What if you had,
Yeah.
you did it the other way, 5 over 2, whatever,
Well, same thing, it's just that where would the 2 be left now?
at the bottom?
If you have the
Exactly.
bottom,
So we 1 over 2, so that's what I wanna get. Okay.
so you have a fraction instead of a whole number.
Alright, and that's what we do when we reduce. You really are doing this. It's just that, do any of you really write this? Not, most of you guys don't write this because you can do it in your head.
You just take it for
With
granted.
variables, can you just do them in your head?
No.
No. If you can, awesome. If you can't, you probably want to write for yourself what the hell they are and then kill. You're doing the same thing you do in numbers. Why? Because these are just stupid numbers. There's numbers where part of them I don't know what they are. So of course it should be harder. Okay. So what was the... Who had another question?
Oh. Oh, cheap.
Oh. Let's see. I like this problem.
What multiplies by 25 that adds to be negative 26?
Whenever the last dude is 1 off from the middle guy, it's got to be 1 in that guy. Do you guys see what I'm saying?
I had 25 and
The middle guy is 1 off. The only thing that could possibly work there would be 1 and 25.
Yeah.
And they both have to be
negative 25.
negative. So the top is like this. Is that cool?
On the second.
Now on the bottom, everybody makes a mistake on the bottom because you try to force it to be something in 8.
So it would be
That's what you try to force it to be. It's not what it
You
is.
get 1
Is this x times x minus 1?
I love it.
Just
And X comes out.
Yeah.
X
X
minus
squared.
25.
That's all you can do.
So can you tell them? People see the 25, they see the X squared, but is X itself able to be cut in half? X to the first, can I cut that in half? No. Therefore, this is not a difference of squares. That's why what you always try first to save yourself, you do GCF. If you always try GCF first, you will save yourself from a lot of misery. Right? Yeah.
So you wouldn't do parentheses x plus 5x parentheses x minus 5x.
Say again?
You wouldn't do, what I'm trying to say is,
Well,
like
because
x
you
plus
can't break
5x.
this up into 2.
Yeah, okay.
That's why.
So you can't do plus 5x minus 5x.
Because you don't have X squared at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is an 8.
And right there, is that cool? The X minus 25 is canceled? Because now I have multiplication and division. I can cancel those. So what I'm left with is that. Cool.
5.7, number 63.
Based on what I just said, hopefully we do the first step correctly.
Yeah, you get the
X.
2 divides all of them, 2 divides all.
You can take 2x.
2x squared, correct?
2x
To the
To the
third.
third.
Cool. Right? So GCF saves yourself from yourself before you make this a truly heinous problem.
X to
8 x to the second squared minus 22x plus 15. And then break it
Why
down.
is Suzanne like, what's 15? What's the problem? But I mean, it's really easy to make mistakes on this stuff because you've got so many different factoring methods in your head at once. I'm trying to tell you, do it very recipe-ish. Always look for GCF and then say, okay, how many terms are there? And then say, if it's this many terms, I know to try these things. Make it very organized. People attack things with the wrong procedure because they don't take a second just to identify what the hell they're working with.
no.
So now I've got 3 terms in here.
You got 8 times.
8 times.
There's a number that's not 1 in front.
Yeah.
Good.
8 times 15.
8 times